Alright guys, hold up, I know JJK finished months ago, but I'm bored, so why not bring up one of the most debated topics within the verse, that's none other than Kashimo versus Yuta. Which, to be honest, in my opinion, is a topic that shouldn't have dragged on this far and is really one-sided. So, today, I'm gonna find out whether Kashimo or Yuta is actually stronger than each other. And I'm telling you right now, it's really not as close as everyone makes it out to be. So, let's not waste any more time and get right into the video then. Okay, the first person we're gonna do, Yuta Okotsu. Well, if you don't know, the main reason why I'm doing Yuta is because he has a lot more variables than Kashimo does, and before we further progress into this video, I want to also clarify what I mean by stronger. Basically, I'm going over their stats and also including many other factors like their abilities, which will allow them to attain this victory. So, let's just start with Yuta's stats. So, Yuta. Throughout JJK, he showcased multitude of different things that made him very exceptional and talented. One of those apparent things is his cursed energy reserves, which is highlighted to be more than Gojo and encompasses his whole body, making him harder to predict, and even more so in the Koen games, make him highly durable, as Ryu points this out. I think it's more of a hitting a wall. Not only is this impressive, but he also palms Granite Blast, which is known to have a higher output than the rest of the Koen games, which I will clarify later on, and it does show his immense durability. Next is none other than his physical strength. During the extermination arc for Yuji, Yuta is noted to lack physical strength by both Yuji and Yuta, but his overwhelming amount of CE is able to compensate for that lack of strength as he's able to crush a car and also flip it over, and it's also stated by Yuta himself, which is very impressive as it shows that even with this lack of physical strength, his immense CE, which is then showing that immense talent, is able to make up for that gap. And while that is really impressive, his physical strength is really not to be messed with, I think one of the more important parts of this battle, which I think is also one of Yuta's strong suits, is his speed. Yuta has quite a performance when it comes to speed, as he not only has, like of course, the endurance to able to keep this up, but is able to react to people like Ryu and Yoro. Ryu is known to have a extremely high output, and Yoro is someone who has led a squad to fight Suguna back in the past in the Heian era and was relatively known. Even though she lost against Suguna, it does point out that she's not really inherently like a really extremely weak opponent. But those two people aren't even Yuta's greatest line of skilling. His most impressive line of skilling is when in Shinjuku Showdown when he fought against Suguna, as there's multiple different times where he's able to react and clash with Suguna multiple times. And while people may have an issue with this as he's doing a 2v1, you can't fully factor it out because Rika is a Shikigami that's a part of Yuta's kit, which they note multiple times. So you can't point it out as a bad feat. Even Suguna highlights Yuta as being someone as the main meal to go after, meaning that he's not someone that like Suguna lacks full-on no interest with. Now moving forward, this brings us to Yuta's peak, which is none other than him in his domain. His domain expansion allows him to use any of his copy curse techniques and use it as a sure hit. And in this said domain, as we know from the Megami fight back in the Koen games of Reginald, the domain expansion amp is a 20% amp. And within this amp that he fights Suguna, he continuously reacts to Suguna's attacks, again forcing some form of potential relativity. And now with the stat portion out of the way, let's get to the hacks portion for Yuta. So as you know, going by Yuta's ability, its copy, and allows him to copy other people's abilities, which I went over earlier. And to store these abilities, Rika has to eat a portion of the body. That's a simple explanation. And over the course of the series, Yuta has gained a lot of abilities, which is not limited to curse speech, which is words imbued with curses, and he's able to stun his opponent by simply saying stop, or he can also kill an opponent by saying die. He also has Jacob's Ladder from Angel, which extinguishes barriers and techniques. He has precognition through Charles, which if it's built up enough as shown when he fought Suguna, and of course when, Charles fought Hakari, he can see the future. He also has Yoro's ability, which allows him to reflect attacks or physical body, like we've seen when Yoro uses against Yuta, he was able to like make her all his arms just start flapping around, basically not allowing him to reach her. And it's also through Thin Icebreaker, use air as a surface for a powerful attack. And of course, the last one is none other than cleaving his mantle for meeting Yuji's fingers, which was even able to damage Sukuna. And as you can clearly see, Yuta is someone who is far from weak and has the actual skilling to back it up. All these hacks abilities he has gives him a really good advantage currently right now over Kashimo, which you'll see later on when we get to the conclusion of this. So that brings us to the end of the Yuta section. So you might be asking yourself, how does Kashimo Hajime match up to this absolute powerhouse? Don't worry, I'm gonna go exactly how Kashimo matches up to this, going over his stats and abilities, and then at the real end, we'll decide on who actually wins this. So let's get into the Kashimo section. Kashimo, an incarnated sorcerer from the Edo period. He's seen as the strongest within that said period, which will be important later on. Kashimo is someone who wants to fight, especially against Sukuna, who is portrayed as the strongest. So, how does he hope to match against Yuta? Well, it's quite simple. First, we're going to establish two variables, which is Hakari Kinji and the theme of love in regards to the strongest. But first, let's go over Hakari. So, Hakari. To put it simply, within the verse, both Yuta and Hakari are portrayed to be relative for the most part. Which is, what I mean by that is that we need to distinguish the Culling Games and Shinjuku. In the introduction to Hakari in the Culling Games, he stated to be stronger than Yuta when he's worked up, which is referential to Jackpot. And while many people say it's contradicted due to Maki, I think that's a very flawed reason, because when saying this, you presuppose Maki has knowledge on Hakari, but even if we took that line of reasoning out of the way, it's stated multiple times for him to be stronger than Yuta at this point. So obviously through authorial intent, I think authorial intent is pretty much the author just kind of trying to convey something through here. He's clearly trying to convey a point here that this character is above this character, hence why they're trying to recruit him, because they're trying to look for strong people. Now, if you remember from the previous section with Yuta about Ryu having the highest output in the Culling Games, that's true to an extent. The reason why I say that is because the time frame the statement is made in is prior to Akari's entry, so we can't actually say Ryu has higher output than Akari. And the statement within itself is that he boasts, which pretty much means to talk about one's achievement and excessive pride, which makes the statement a bit questionable. And to continue on, you guys might be wondering, what does this do for Kashimo? Well, it does a lot, because Hakari, who's stronger than this Culling Games Yuta, was getting outpaced badly by Kashimo constantly. And while you might say Hakari sped up or held back, the issue with that there is that there's nothing suggesting he held back, especially since he wanted to beat Kashimo. So I fail to see why he would hold back if he could so-called, like, outpace Kashimo or just blitz Kashimo. And another thing I tend to see is that people claim that he's like a blitz above due like these speed increases, but the issue with this, I think it's really just an off guard by Akari, because the instance of this happening occur when Akari abruptly increases his speed, and off guard is pretty much unprepared for something unexpected or abrupt, which is what's happening. So I don't think this is a usable method as a way to debunk Kashimo's line of scaling. And with that being said, this doesn't really inherently mean much to Yuta, but for Akari it does, because Yuta gets stronger post-training when they do that 1 month training, and then it's implied by Gojo that they're relative. The only issue with this again is that, well, yeah, Yuta had gotten stronger, which we don't know if Akari was doing any training in relation to stats, so you can't use the argument that Akari got stronger with Yuta. So if anything, Yuta just was below Akari and then now are relative to him, which means that Kashimo is still an outpace over Yuta. And this is where it gets bad. So, Kashimo's Sukuna scaling. This is probably one of the most interpreted fights I've seen in a minute. Now, it's bad not because of Kashimo's performance, but it's the situation he was in. Like, are you serious? Like, Kashimo react to a forearm fresh true form Sukuna. Like, this man had the worst luck. Anyways, here's where I distinguish Yuta's scaling to Sukuna's and Kashimo's. The difference is that there is a level of trying that's distinctive from each other. As we know, Sukuna by Urame was holding back. And Urame does this by sensing Sukuna's CE waves and noticed he was going all out. And for anyone is wondering, yes, this is also referring to stats, because when Sukuna was interested in Maki, later on when he actually declares that, yeah, he's gonna do this, that thing, like opposed to his answer to the question, he significantly sped up and blitzed her. What I'm pretty much getting at is that it doesn't matter if you think he didn't go all out, but I do think there's a distinction on who's trying harder against who, in which I think Sukuna tried harder against Kashimo than Yuta. This is where I'm going back to what I said about the love portion, is that in JJK there's a thing with love where the strongest are loved because of their strength, and in return they respond with that love. Kashimo didn't understand how Sukuna could stand and understand people below him, and Kashimo just obliterated them. So Sukuna, who was grouping him along with Gojo, you know, because they're the strongest, he answers Kashimo's question, and that's through actions, like how they're portrayed, like they respond with that love. So he puts him in the weak position. And this is reinforced how aggressive he was. Like somehow he was a little Maki. He was really aggressive. He was using insane amounts of like the world's cutting slash and like this waffle dismantle that like covered like literally the whole screen. And how he was aggressively using all 4 of his arms. Unlike with someone like Yuta, he was just using one arm and just chillaxing with them. So I pretty much think that with this in mind, I think Kashimo had like more unfavorable circumstances because Sukuna was trying harder against him. And even with this though, Kashimo was able to react multiple times with the CT. Now, here's another method to get Kashimo in speed above Yuta. So, Kashimo CT, when he activated it, during his fight with Meguna, he's able to blitz Meguna multiple times. However, when it came to base Kashimo, Sukuna was able to react to that base Kashimo. And as we already established earlier, base Kashimo was already at outpace above Akari, who's relative to Yuta. Meaning that CT Kashimo is a blitz level above Yuta. Meaning that in this fight, CT Kashimo is going to blitz Yuta. And now that we got that out the way, let's go with abilities. Starting with C minute. Kashimo in base has a lightning CE trait that allows him to bypass defenses, as shown with Panda. He also has a sure hit lightning that, when charged up, sets a lightning bolt that's, acts as a sure hit without the use of domains. And one of the interesting attributes about this lightning strike is that it attacks internals, as we see with Hakari multiple times making fatal blows. And that's only the base of it. We begin to his strongest ability with his CT, it boosts his stats. As it stated, his electrical signals have been activated and he's now able to get faster, as seen when he blitzes Meguna multiple times. And another attribute is that it allows him to make any electrical application a ability within his arsenal, which he shows against Sukuna as he hits him on the sound waves and then was producing EM waves that Sukuna tries to avoid. These same EM waves are able to vaporize its opponents. Now, another important thing is that Kashimo's Hollow Wicker Basket, which allows him to counter domain sure hit so they don't target him. This is, crucial against someone like Yuta who has a domain. And I would like to establish that you don't need 2 hands to keep up Hollow Wicker Basket after it's already been activated. As we see with Reggie, when he took the hands down, Hollow Wicker Basket was still up. They also later imply with when Sukuna was versing Yuji on how the Hollow Wicker Basket works is that use 2 hands to you can use 2 hands to maintain it after its activation is already done if you want to. Now, with all that done, good thing I don't have to go over Kashimo's physical strength. It really isn't needed, to be honest. If you want to use him destroying that crater, that's fine if you want, but let's move on to the conclusions. Now, the conclusion on who would win this is pretty simple, as I made obvious. It's Kashimo, and it's really not even close. See, here's the thing. Yuta's domain would help, but he would still lose. Let me explain. The issue is just how Kashimo in character fights. He immediately tries to attack the opponent, not giving them a chance, as shown against Panda and Sai against Akari. Which is bad for Yuta because he won't be able to pull off any moves, especially since he has, for use copy, he has to manifest Rika, which takes time out of his day to literally manifest. He has to say the words, come Rika. But he may not get the chance because Kashimo is going to absolutely badly outpace him, as we already established base Kashimo is already outpaced over Akari, who's relative to Yuta. Now, let's say you argue Yuta is going to tank his attacks because of Ryu. This doesn't work because of his sure hit lightning. As his sure hit lightning, as I said earlier, it's attacks internals, meaning it expresses Dur-neg properties, meaning that his durability isn't going to matter. Now, this gets 10 times worse with the CT, because with his CT, he's a blitz above Yuta, meaning that he can go in there, speed up, blitz Yuta, then hit him with a EM wave, which will vaporize him. But let's give Yuta the benefit of the doubt and presuppose he didn't do that and he went into this domain. It really wouldn't help, because even if Yuta has a bit leeway to hit Kashimo, since he'll probably Pogman Hollow Wicker Basket, that's the only chance we're really gonna get, because after that he just goes up and blitzes Yuta right after. So nothing Yuta does is like gonna be effective unless he somehow gets all his abilities off, which is gonna be extremely hard if he's gonna keep getting pressured before he does anything. So after all that, I have Kashimo winning low difficulty, and I know this is gonna rage a lot of people, but that's the simplest way to put it. Like, this is a topic that should not have gone on this long.